Lining up audio, 3, 2, 1, and action. Hey, what's up? Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm really excited about this because I've always wanted to do tutorials. I watched so many of them in my process of creating, and I really just want to be able to give that back to somebody and hopefully inspire some sort of new editing style for you. So today I want to go over a topic that's quite essential in filmmaking and really bringing together your story, but also looks really cool, and that's bokeh. So what is bokeh? Bokeh refers to the really aesthetically pleasing, like cinematic blur that you see in a lot of photos and videos. And the goal for this video is not only to show you how to create this, but also how to utilize it. To make sure we're on the same page before we move forward, take a look at these sample photos that my friends have sent in. Their usernames are in the description if you want to see more from them. Really talented photographers. Alright, so bokeh. This effect is created by the focus or the lack thereof in your frame. And this is really important to understand because this can make the difference from looking like a reality TV show or like a sitcom and really creating that cinematic sequence that gives you that really epic, powerful cinematic Hollywood feel. With bokeh, not only are you getting a really cool effect and aesthetic, but you're doing so much more. You are controlling the attention of the audience. And when you're controlling what the viewer sees, that really leads into your directing, telling your own stories, and how you're going to bring the viewer along for the rest of the video. In this video, we're going to go over 3 different ways of how to achieve this. So the first, most cost-effective, and probably the easiest way to go about this is to have a lens with a low f-stop or aperture. So typically, lenses that have a fixed focal length, also known as a prime lens, will have a low aperture. And what you want to do is really take advantage of that and open that aperture all the way up. So you want a really big aperture, like 1.4. Typically, the lower the number, the better. So less is going to be in focus, and that's what's going to create this effect behind whatever the subject is. Now, sometimes it's just for a cool shot, like the sparks off of the fire here, or this very busy field where you can pick out an individual flower, or maybe you're planning to do some voiceovers, like how we're all so similar, but we're all very unique in our own way, just like these flowers. It really helps just paint that picture for somebody when they have a very narrow focus, because that's what they're going to be drawn to. Let me give you a few of my own examples that I've been using in my videos. In the movements video, I have somebody revving their engine on their bike, and I wanted you to really see that he's revving this bike and put a lot of emphasis on that because I wanted to build a sequence. So now that you know he's started his bike and he's revved it, the next shot is probably going to be a bike moving. And in this shot, I wanted to show vulnerability through the really weathered hand. So I wanted all the detail and the focus to be on the palms. As you can see, in a lot of these shots, I'm really close to the subject. And that's what's going to give me a really nice depth of field. But as we get wider on these shorter lenses, a lot more starts to come into focus. I need a different plan of action. It is a lot harder for us to depict what's in focus in this shot, even though the image is still overall really sharp. There's a common misconception that a lower aperture always means a more cinematic look. But if I'm at a really low aperture and I'm filming somebody's face, I'm not going to be able to get the entire face in the shot necessarily. Like, you don't want to watch this video with just my nose in focus. You want the entire subject to be in focus, or else it just becomes distracting. And this will transition us over to our second way of getting this bokeh effect, which is a long lens. A 70 to 200, for example. When we increase our focal length, we're decreasing our depth of field, so we don't necessarily need a lower aperture. Now let's address this issue that we get with shorter lenses, shooting from further away. So the great thing about having a longer lens is with that compression, you can still isolate the subject from the scene and still get that effect while keeping more in focus. This is a great way to get the shot we want with what we need in focus. And remember, the further your subject is from the background, the more bokeh you're going to have. And this is a lot more significant when it comes to one of these lenses. However, if I just saved up for my first camera, let's say I went and bought the Sony a7 III, which is an amazing camera, I might not necessarily have the budget to get a shorter lens and a longer lens. And the majority of the time is you're going for that shorter zoom lens. I started with a 16 to 35, and then I bought a longer prime. But it was a while before I got a long lens. But I still want everybody to be able to pull this off, no matter what lens or camera you have. Which brings us to our third way, post-production. I'm going to show you how to do this no matter what camera or lens you use. So, let me show you an example from my last video. I really wanted to switch up the framing in this video and get a shot that was super intimate. You know, something just like really close. But I don't have a 400 or 600 millimeter lens, so I wasn't exactly sure how to do that while I was there. So I actually created this transition and this shot when I got back home. This bokeh effect was created from two different shots and a clip from stock footage. The first shot is the kick and the real authentic splash. The second shot I took was a lady washing her face in the river. And the third shot, which I merged on top of those two, was actually just a stock footage clip of water splashing. All I had to do was create a fake bokeh effect on the two clips behind the splash, and I slowly faded them into each other because all of your attention was just on the stock splash, and really utilizing the focus to forward your story. Another simpler example is from my first video, where Jonah is meditating. Now, he's sitting still, and I really want to represent that by speeding up and blurring everybody around him. This one's definitely a lot more obvious, but that was intentional. I wanted him to really stand out. All I had to do was duplicate the clip, make one of them blurry, and mask out the Jonah that was in focus. And that's it. It's that easy. I did it in After Effects, but I'm sure you can do it in your program if you're using Premiere or Final Cut. Anyways, I hope this gives you some inspiration on how to use these elements in storytelling and just to try and get cooler shots and effects no matter what camera or lens you're using. But aside from these 3 tips, there's actually some lenses that are specific to bokeh and they give a different effect. So I'm going to put a link to that below. Definitely check them out. And I'll also put some links to prime lenses, that are great lenses, give you that effect, are really sharp and still just really affordable. These alternatives are a lot more affordable than the brand names that you don't necessarily need at this stage. So this was the first of many tutorials. I would love feedback on it, and there's going to be a lot of these coming out, so give a suggestion to what you want to learn, and that way we'll continue to grow together. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.